All right, thank you for staying with us. It's time now to take a look at stories making headlines on the front page of Nigerian newspapers. And I begin with the Punch newspaper. And the major story here, principal officers, APC protest selection, National Assembly members back Akpabio, Abbas. And some writers here say selecting Bamidele Ndume Umahi as National Assembly leaders, Rumo Adamu declares. Senators, reps support Senate President, Speaker, say National Working Committee aware of selection. Now to the front page of the Leadership newspaper. National Assembly leadership confusion as APC disowns Akpabio Abbas over principal officers. On the front page of the Leadership newspaper, that's leadership confusion as APC disowns Akpabio Abbas over principal officers. You find all the details on the front page of the Leadership newspaper. To the First News newspaper now. Cracks in APC over 10th National Assembly leadership as Adamu rejects Akpabio. Abbas's principal officers disagrees with governors. Wike Tambua lose out as Senate President names minority leaders. All the details on the front page of the First News newspaper. And to the front page of the Daily Trust. National Assembly crack in APC as Adamu rejects Bamidele Ndume. Other principal officers, Senate President, Speaker have our backing. Progressive governors are speaking there. Kemi.
Right, and more papers here with me. This Nigeria is leading with its this biggest story on the latest NAS appointments, how Bamidele Ndume Ihonvere Chinda emerged as Senate and Reps leaders. That is on this Nigeria. On The Nation, it says, presidency governors back Bamidele Ndume and Umahi as they emerge the latest set of appointees at the 10th Senate. That's on The Nation details. You get all the details there. Blueprint is going away from the controversies regarding the NAS appointments. It says now 3 reasons INEC cannot join emotive public discourse on the 2023 polls. That's according to INEC's chairman, Yakubu Mahmood. Scores exercise high and says the 10th NAS is the most diverse in party representation. On Business Day, it's reporting on how Nigerian leaders failed to rein in governance costs. How Nigerian leaders failed to rein in governance costs is on Business Day. The Nature News is next. Nigeria's 2025 open defecation-free target shaky, with 48 million Nigerians set to still be practicing the act of open defecation. And finally is Nigerian News Direct with following the publisher's exit. Dr. Samuel Ibiyemi scores of gallantry had to reconcile Dr. Ibiyemi's departure because he died yesterday, and we continue to pray that his soul continues to rest in peace. Veronica.
A really unfortunate one there, talking about Dr. Ibiyemi. One cannot say without a doubt his impact on the media, talking about the profession, and it's a sad one. It's a sad one. Yes, we'll all have our time, but then one wouldn't expect that at a time like this we'll have this kind of departure. It's just an unfortunate one, and like we mentioned earlier, may his soul continue to rest in peace. And one lesson here is that you contribute to the society in the capacity as you have, right, as much as you can. But let's return to our focus now, talking about principal officers that emerged at the 10th Assembly yesterday has been generating reaction, especially with regards to the APC National Working Committee saying that it must be a rumor. We're not part of this whole team, talking about the person of Abdullahi Adamu speaking on behalf of the National Working Committee, and that this is not the process that he has known, that there's always a letter sent for their own confirmation And that, to him, did not happen. According to him, did not happen. But there are those who are saying that the National Working Committee is very much aware with this decision. And when we saw that report by our correspondents, we saw, some persons saying they are very much in support of how the principal officers emerged. The support of the opposition members was gotten as well. Of course, there will be those who are saying that we did not support, but then they have emerged at the end of the day.
They have, and the new majority leader, the Senate majority leader, that's Senator Akpabio Bamidele, has also gone on to defend the decision of the 10th Senate to go by way of consensus as against the position of the national leader of the ruling All Progressives Congress. In fact, the senator said as much that even during the just concluded Salah celebrations, they went to pay him homage, to consult with him, to inform him of, of their decision. They also came to Lagos to also pay homage to the president, during the festivities of Salah. And so everyone was carried along, and then the Senate is choosing to ride high on the mantra of consensus, of democracy. But then, of course, the place of the party, because they said that all the others from the various opposition parties were also carried along. And everyone, at least from what we have seen, say they may have some misgivings or they may have some reservations about the emergence of some names, but they are just choosing to go on with it. And it also, brings us again to the point of it's the Senate, it's the House of Representatives. These are the people that will represent the majority of us Nigerians. So however, we leave them to determine how best they want, to announce leaders that will represent them or that will be their leaders, moving forward in this cycle of assembly. But of course, the place of the parties, that's non-negotiable. But this is an interesting development that we see. And look at what INEC chairman said, looking at the diverse representation of parties in the House of Reps and the Senate, for example. Now, it's interesting, and he says that from what he's seen, it appears that the dominance of the ruling parties may likely change, looking at the patterns we're seeing among the lawmakers.
Underscoring how the election went.
Beginning from that, yes, up
and we see how it's reflected at the 10th Assembly. Interesting. In fact, one wouldn't expect that this selection will be rancor-free, looking at the tension that led up to the emergence of this principal officer. So it goes to show that our democracy is evolving, and a lot of persons are seeing the need to focus on governance as against this we no go gree spirit, as one of our guests once said at some point, that there is the need. Yes, we might have differences politically, but the Nigerian project is the focus, and that is what we saw at the end of the day. It's interesting to also note that these persons are beginning to understand the power of consultations, and that you cannot do it alone. As a party, you need to bring in other party members to see things. You have to shift grounds, bring everyone to the table and have a conversation, which is very, very important.
And in terms of, the principles of fairness,
equity and justice, yes.
and equity, it's also interesting how the names also emerged because you raised a powerful point about consultation. And over the time before the announcement of the Senate President and the DSP, for example, now that the deputy, that is, there were calls by the opposition that they could even spring a surprise because the sum total of the opposition cutting across various opposition parties as against the majority of the APC, they said they still had the numbers, even though for one party, APC stood out as having the highest, but for the collection of all the opposition parties, they also had the numbers that they believed they could also use to spring a surprise on the APC. And we saw how there were cross-party consultations, trying to sway the other person to their side. And up until the last minute, all of that was going on, and we see it also being reflected now. And there is major business before the senators before the lawmakers now, and the service chiefs, the ministers, the appointees of the president, that is, the issue of, other major businesses of the day, are going to be tabled now before these people. Then committee appointments too. Obviously, there's still going to be more and more consultations and negotiations to appease whoever still feels
frayed nerves.
Absolutely. And then we hope that they can make meaningful progress and give Nigerians good representation.
I believe they are giving Nigerians a sense of what the 10th Assembly would look like in terms of deliberating on laws as it affects the people. The fact that they can see eye to eye, if I may use that word, with regards to the emergence of principal officers, then I believe that they would see the need to work together when it comes to deliberating on certain laws that affect the people. They are representatives of the people, and so would want to look at the interest of the people in one front as against having some differences that wouldn't move the country forward. I believe that we have learned lessons over the years, and that is what they are peaking from, to addressing how they handle certain issues as it is. So moving forward, Nigerians want to see them hit the ground running. This camaraderie that they are enjoying amongst themselves, we want to see that as well. Yes, we do not want to see we no go agree people carrying chairs and all of those anymore. Yes, we haven't had that in the recent past, but we want to see improvements, ensuring that Nigerians' interest takes the front burner at the end of the day. Absolutely.
And it remains to be seen how this controversy from the ruling party will be wrested, because the papers so far are diverse on the reportage of how the national leader of the APC is quoted on the emergence of, the additional principal officers, right? But then there's also a paper such as the Nation, for example, that says the presidency and governors backed the emergence of Senators Bamidele, Undume, and Umahi. So it remains to be seen how that, in fact, there were even quotations or quotes by some influential members of the party who said this is rested. This is rested. Yes, there may be some more tweaking in terms of consultations that need to be done, but this is a rested matter, and we hope for the good of everyone
it is a rested matter.
That beyond personal interests and collective interests will hold sway. I was saying I don't think I elaborated enough on it. I was talking about how the appointments also seemed to spread across geopolitical zones
and even parties
that at least the NNPP, the Labour
Party had some representation.
They now become principal officers in their own right, and some of them first timers. That's really
That was why I mentioned earlier that it goes to show that our democracy has evolved and is evolving.
Absolutely. I prefer the continuous.
It's evolving. Okay, we haven't. We are still in the process.
It's a process.
We're still in the process of evolving. And going back to the matter of how the APC will resolve it, I believe that it's not necessarily an issue per se. The way that it is been painted, talking about cracks in the wall and all of it. I don't want to see it in that light. I believe the party will be able to manage the situation on the ground when it comes to the matters of consultation. Yes, we have the presidency saying that they back this decision of principal officers. We also see the progressive governor saying they are in support. They will also have to sit again to have a conversation with the Abdullahi Adamu, as well as the National Working Committee members, to know how to move forward with the party. They know that, I want to believe they understand that whatever cracks they might have at this point, it won't be in the interest of the party to leave that crack without addressing it. So they want to address it as quickly as possible so that crack wouldn't expand more than it is now, and this matter wouldn't fester.
Absolutely, yeah. That is very important, and we hope that this will not cause more divisions within the party. It is simple, as have been observed, and we hope that this is sustained.
Absolutely, we'll leave the conversation here now. Coming up.